Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 8. They asked me to read a few verses this morning from text 13 up until text 17, and 17 is on the board. So I'll just read these first texts by myself. Text 13. Jaleshu mam rakshatu matcha murtir yadoganibhyo varunashya pasat Staleshu mayavatu vamanovyat Trivikrama ke vatu vishvarupaha. Translation. May the Lord, who assumes the body of a great fish, protect me in the water from the fierce animals that are associates of the demigod Varuna. By expanding his illusory energy, the Lord assumed the form of the dwarf Vaman. May Vaman protect me on the land. Since the gigantic form of the Lord Vishvarup conquers the three worlds, may he protect me in the sky. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This mantra seeks the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the water, land, and sky, in his incarnations as the fish, Vamanadev, and the Vishvarup. Text 14. Durgesh atat vyaji mukarishu prabhu payan nishringho sura yuttaparihi vimunchato yasya mahatahasam disho venedur nyapatam snagchagarbaha. May Lord Nrsingadev, who appeared as the enemy of Hiranyakashipu, protect me in all directions. His loud laughing vibrated in all directions and caused the pregnant wives of the Asuras to have miscarriages. May that Lord be kind enough to protect me in difficult places like the forest and battlefront. Text 15. Raksha so madvani yagyakalpaha swadham strayonita daravaraha Ramo drikutesh atta vipravase solakshmano vyad bharata grosman. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is ascertained through the performance of ritualistic sacrifices and is therefore known as Yageshwar. In his incarnation as Lord Boar, he raised the planet Earth from the water at the bottom of the universe and kept it on his pointed tusks. May that Lord protect me from rogues on the street. May Parshuram protect me on the tops of mountains. And may the elder brother of Bharat, Lord Ramachandra, along with his brother Lakshman, protect me in foreign countries. Purport. There are three Rams. One Ram is Parshuram, Jamadagni. Another Ram is Lord Ramachandra. And a third Ram is Lord Balaram. In this verse, the words Ramo Dvi Kutesh Atta indicate Lord Parshuram. The brother of Bharat Maharaj and Lakshman is Lord Ramachandra. Text 16. Mam ugra dharmat akilat pramadan narayana patu narascha hasat datascha yogad atta yoganataha payad gunesha kapila karma bandhat. May Lord Narayan protect me from unnecessarily following false religious systems and falling from my duties due to madness. May the Lord in his appearance as Nara protect me from unnecessary pride. May Lord Dattatreya, the master of all mystic power, protect me from falling while performing bhakti-yoga. And may Lord Kapila, the master of all good qualities, protect me from the material bondage or fruitive activities. Text 17, please repeat. Sunat Kumaro Vatu Kama Sanat Kumaro Vata Kamadevad Daya Shirsa Mampati Deva Helanat Daya Shirsa Mampati Deva Helanat Deva Shivarya Purushatchanantanat Deva Shivarya Purushatchanantarat Kurmo Harir Mam Nirayad Aseshat. Others? Matajis? Sanat Kumara, the great brahmachari, named Sanat Kumar, Avatu, may he protect Kamadevat from the hands of Cupid or lusty desire. Hayasirsa, Lord Hayagriva, the incarnation of the Lord, whose head is like that of a horse. Mam, me, pati, on the path. Deva helanat, from neglecting to offer respectful obeisances to Brahmins, Vaishnavas, and the Supreme Lord. Devar Shivaryaha, the best of saintly sages, Narada. Purusha, Archana, Antarat, from the offenses in worshipping the deity. Kurmaha, Lord Kurma, the tortoise. Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mam, me. Nirayat, from hell. Aseshat, unlimited. Translation, may Sanat Kumar protect me from lusty desires As I begin some auspicious activity, may Lord Hayagriva protect me from being an offender by neglecting to offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord. May Devarshi Narad protect me from committing offenses and worshiping the deity. And may Lord Karma, the tortoise, protect me from falling to the unlimited hellish planets. Please repeat. May Sanat Kumar protect me from lusty desires. As I begin some auspicious activity, may Lord Hayagriva protect me from being an offender by neglecting to offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord. May Devarshi Narad protect me from committing offenses in worshiping the deity, and may Lord Karma, the tortoise, protect me from falling to the unlimited hellish planets. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lusty desires are very strong in everyone, and they are the greatest impediment to the discharge of devotional service. Therefore, those who are very much influenced by lusty desires are advised to take shelter of Sanat Kumar, the great brahmachari devotee. Narad Muni, who is the guide for Archana, is the author of the Narada Pancharatra, which prescribes the regulated principles for worshiping the deity. Everyone engaged in deity worship, whether at home or in the temple, should always seek the mercy of Devarshi Narad in order to avoid the 32 offenses while worshiping the deity. These offenses in deity worship are mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion. Goragraganya gana gotra goloruharam Goranga gudatama gopyara kopa briksham Gopalagara ratidam yati singha gora Govinda deshi kavaram satatam namami. So many things could be spoken on these verses. And I'm used to having someone translating for me for the last week, so excuse me. We could go in many different directions, but I feel a little inspired to try to see a sequence in these descriptions, in these prayers for the Narayan Kavacha shield, which begins with something gross, praying to Lord Matsya to protect me in the water, and then to Vamanadev on the land and Vishwarup in the sky. And then, perhaps a little more subtle, with Lord Nrsingadev to protect me all around. And then he prays to Lord Yagesh in his incarnation as Lord Varaha, who picked up the earth. And Parshuram, may they protect me in foreign countries. May Lord Narayan, Mam Ugra Dharmad, may Lord Narayan protect me from Ugra Dharmad, from Ugra Dharma, or false Dharma. Dharma Kaitava Projita. It describes in the first verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that this Srimad Bhagavatam immediately kicks out all types of Ugra Dharma or false Dharma. So may he protect me from that and from unnecessarily following some false religious systems due to Pramadan, due to some madness. And may the Lord Nara protect me from pride. This pride is a great stumbling block. And then from that pride, he begins to speak about lusty desires. So our acharyas have described that there's a sequence to these kind of events. And even though the devotees are offering these prayers to the Lord, the devotees are also sometimes afflicted by pride, and then sometimes by lust, as we see in the example of Indra, who's not a small-time person. We've been speaking about him for the last week, some classes about the position of Govardhan Hill. And it's said in the Bhagavatam, Indra Riv Yakulam Lokam Ridayanti Yuge Yuge. He's not a small-time person. The Lord comes again and again, Yuge Yuge, to help protect Indra. Indra has some position. He's a devotee, but he's a Sakama Bhakta. He has some problems, like many of us. We also have some problems. We also have some mixed desires. So, of course, the root of all these problems is pride. There's a nice verse that we printed in our Bindu magazine a few years ago from the first canto of the Narada Purana. Ekadata shiragyo vai sarva sampad vinasakrit ahankaro mahan yagye masuyo lobahetu kaha. It was speaking about, it's a verse spoken by Sanat Kumar to Narad Muni, about King Bahu, and how he was a great king and a very righteous person and a devotee. But after some time, pride took possession of Maharaj Bahu. And this verse describes that when that pride took possession of him, that pride is the cause of the destruction, sarva sampad, vinashakrit, it's the destruction of all wealth. It's the source of false ego, ahankar. Mahan yagne masuyo lobahetuka. It's the source of all types of failure. And it comes along with its good friends, jealousy and greed. So Thakur Bhaktivinoda, he's kindly in his Krishna Samhita and in Chaitanya Siksamrita given us a license or a pathway that we can meditate something on Krishna Leela. Don't think that Krishna Leela is something illegal. Srila Prabhupada gave his Krishna book, and he wanted all the devotees to read it every day, and not only read it, but to also distribute it. And I think he was expecting the brand new people who would buy the book, that they might also read the book. So we should hear about the pastimes of Krishna. But Bhaktivinoda, he gives a very unusual, very novel way of approaching these pastimes. He says that they all represent different obstacles on our path to our eternal home of Vrindavan. And one of those obstacles, which he speaks about in both Chaitanya Siksamrita and Krishna Samhita, is Shankachuda. In Chaitanya Siksamrita, he says that this is the 18th obstacle in our bhajan. And these are obstacles that we all have to go through. We're all on the road to Vrindavan. We want to come to Vrindavan. We don't want to just sit on top of Vrindavan, as we may be doing now, but we want to actually enter into Vrindavan and see Krishna's eternal pastimes. So Bhaktivinoda, he says that Shankachuda Vada, Mani Mochana Pratistasa, Ostri Sangha Spriha Varjana. That Shankachuda represents the desire for two things, and these two things are intimately connected. Pratistasa, the desire for some fame and some position. And this even sometimes comes to devotees. I remember very well, some years ago, one very senior devotee told me, Madhavananda, you have to think about your career in ISKCON. I had a very bad day that day. I don't want to think about my career in ISKCON as some kind of institutional, formal body. But that's a difficulty with the institution thing. It sometimes comes. So many good things are there with the institution, but some difficulties also come in the form of this pratista, or this pratista asa, this hankering to get some kind of position. When are they finally going to recognize me? When are they going to give me some position? And understand the fact that I can solve all the problems. Right? We're thinking like that many times in a subtle or a gross way. And sometimes it's even more subtle than that. Sometimes we've been hearing some wonderful classes for the last few days from His Holiness Bhakti-Vigyan Maharaj about Madhuri Kadambini. Oh my God, if you can get recordings of those, are the most amazing classes on Madhuri Kadambini I've ever heard. Amazing. So he was speaking about how sometimes as devotees, we come because we have some problem. And maybe after a few days or a few weeks, they say, hey, why don't you give class? You give class. And they say, wow, that was really good. You should give class again. So you do it again, and they say, well, I mean, you're really an advanced person. You're almost an incarnation. And then after some time they say, well, really, you should become a manager, you should become a sannyasi, you should become a guru. And I'm still the same rotten creature who joined. I just came and I sat down and I didn't realize what I was sitting on. It was a conveyor belt. And it was going to start moving by itself. And all of a sudden, just because I've been here for so long, people are saying, oh, he's a senior devotee, he knows so much. And that in and of itself is not necessarily bad. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that sadhu sabadan, our dear sadhus, be careful of the bhakti anartha, the anartha which comes from bhakti. And as Bhakti-yoga Maharaj is nicely describing, this type of anartha generally doesn't come to devotees who are doing humble services, cleaning the kitchen or cooking, doing book distribution or something. But especially it comes to the preachers and the leaders. And people start glorifying you because there should be some hierarchy. That's culture. It's an important thing. We have to have respect. If there's no respect for senior persons, then we have no culture. And we should give that respect whether they're qualified or not. We may give it just for the position that they have. And a nice example is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sanatana Goswami, he was working for the Nawab Hussain Shah. He was a chief minister for him. And he was tired of working for that Muslim who was going every day and killing the Vaishnavas and killing cows and doing all kinds of abominable things. So he sent a note to work saying, I'm really sorry, but I'm sick. And he stayed back at home to hear Srimad Bhagavatam with the devotees. And the Nawab Hussain Shah was becoming unhappy because the affairs in his kingdom weren't being taken care of properly in the absence of Sanatana Goswami. So he sent someone to find out what was going on. And his man came back and said, oh, he's with a bunch of those Hare Krishna people, and they're all just hearing Srimad Bhagavatam every day. So the Nawab Hussain Shah went there to see him. And it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita that when he arrived there, everyone immediately stood up and gave him respect. All those Vaishnava Brahmins. Why? The man's a terrible demon. Huh? But they gave him respect. Srila Prabhupada notes in the purport, because he had some position. It's a very important thing. We have to be subtle enough. We have to have sukshma buddhi. Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about this in Chaitanya Sikshamrita. He says that this sukshma buddhi, or this subtle intelligence, is very important for advancement. He says that gross discrimination, we just see things in a black and white way. We see male, we see female, we see Americans, we see Indians. We see things in a very gross way. This kind of intelligence is very detrimental to bhakti. We need sukshma buddhi. So if we tell devotees, just as we're telling all of you, that we should be respectful to the leaders, some of you may well protest. And I can understand, sadly enough, why you may protest, because maybe you've been in the movement for some years and you might have had a bad experience. But in spite of that, we have to give respect to authorities. We have to give respect to senior persons. But we need this sukshma buddhi. We need to be able to give respect to anyone who has some position because of the position. Otherwise, things are not going to work right. I'm doing this for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. But at the same time, I'll give respect to the temple authorities, to the leaders and things. But I reserve the right to decide who I'm going to take advice from. I reserve the right. I have an obligation to myself to decide who is going to be my guru, who is going to be my Siksha guru, who I have faith in a devotional, spiritual kind of way, and who I don't. You can't force faith. Sometimes, to speak something a little controversial, we say in our movement, in the spirit of trying to make things work nicely, it's a good spirit. But we say something which is not very good. And we say that all the leaders are like your Siksha guru, and all the leaders are spiritual authorities. Please excuse me for saying this in a blunt way, but that's a kind of spiritual rape. Because we can't force faith. You can't dictate faith. But we can encourage devotees to have subtle intelligence and see the importance of respecting the leaders and the managers. But I have to follow my own heart. So it's a difficult thing in our society. Sometimes we get some position and people start glorifying us, giving us respect, because that's a cultured thing to do. But the problem is sometimes after a while we start thinking, yeah, that's right. Just see, they asked me to give class today. And so many senior devotees are sitting here. Don't you know I'm a very important person? So this leads then to pratishta, or the desire to have some position. Raghunath Das Goswami, in the beginning of Braj Leela Stava, a wonderful book of all kinds of different Braj Leela, he begins with a verse which in effect is saying, Sadhu Sabadan, dear devotees, be careful. Patista Rajubir Badham, Kamadjar Vatmapati Bihi Chitvatu Sangarantastan Agare Pantumam Bataha. This verse in many ways kind of mirrors the 7th verse of Raghunath Das Goswami's Manasiksha, which also describes a similar thing. Patista Sadrishta Sapacharamani Me Hridina Tet. Raghunath Das Goswami, he says that Patista Rajubir Badham, I am on the path of bhakti, but some robbers had come and they've tied me up with the ropes of pratishta asa, the desire for some position. And after that pratishta, the pratishta is a robber, and the ropes they use, kamadyar vatmapati bihi, are the ropes of lust. Because there's a natural sequence between having some position and having some lust. A person who's very proud of his position, who wants everyone to give respect to him, he naturally falls prey to lust. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that the example of this is Shankachuda. And Rupa Goswami speaks about this in the 2nd act of Lalita Madhav. He says a very interesting thing, that Kundalata, who's the wife of Krishna's elder cousin brother, Subhadra, and the son of Upananda, one day she came running in excitedly and she told Purnamasi, Ba, Avadi Achariyam, oh noble lady, I've seen a very amazing thing, Purnamasi said, Kim Ascharjam? What is that wonderful thing? And Kundalata said, Ditoma e goa udarama ase, mandira parente ujalanta Kirana Mali, just near Govardhan Mala's house. Govardhan Mala is the husband of that person, that lady who Dinabandhu never wants to hear her name, Chandravali. Just near Govardhan Mala's house, I just now saw, who? Kirana Mali. Who is Kirana Mali? What is the word? It's a very beautiful word, Kirana Mali. What does Kirana Mali mean? It means someone who has some garlands of Kiran, or effulgent rays. And who is that person? That's the sun god. I just saw the sun god there. At that time, Brinda Devi, Sanandam, with great happiness, she said, Bhagavati ma kuru chintam ya esha rada yaschiram aradananena mitrasya vrishabhano soridena chanura gito banur enam rakshitum ase divan. She said, no, noble lady, don't worry. I understand why Surya Dev has come. This is Brinda Devi speaking. Because Radharani is constantly worshipping Surya Dev. Every day she goes to Surya Kund to worship Surya Dev. Or is it Surya Dev? That's another subject matter. Maybe it's actually someone else. And because of the friendship that Surya Dev has with Maharaj Vrishabhanu, no doubt Surya Dev came here to protect Radharani. But then Purnamasi spoke up. Nayam Banu. Wait a minute, this is not Banu. This is not Surya Dev. Kintu saeva kangsasya paksho yaksho bhavishyati. This isn't the sun god. This is a yaksha who is sent by Kamsa. This is a demon. It's described in the Garga Samhita that on one occasion Shankachuta, who was a very powerful person, he was looking for someone good to fight with. So Garga Muni gave him some good advice. You want a good fight? You should go fight with Kamsa, and you'll have a good battle with him. And he told him, Pariparnatamo yovai so pitvam katadishyati tatainam sankachudakyam shivasyapi varojitam. Just as when the two started fighting, they couldn't defeat each other. And at that time, Garga Muni told them that just as the Supreme Lord is destined to kill you, so he'll also kill Shankachuta. And just as you're very strong by the blessings of Lord Shiva, so is he. So Kamsa, he sent Shankachuta to go to Braj because he heard about a very beautiful girl there. And that's the nature of demons. It's the nature of someone like Kamsa, who's supposed to be a Rajarshi. He's supposed to be a saintly ruler. And actually, if you study the account of the birth of Kamsa found in the Padma Purana, Kamsa actually knew Shastra like anything. He knew all about Vanashram Dharma. He knew Smriti Shastra. He was very, very expert in all those things. His father was not Ugrasena. His father was a demon named Gobila. And it's a long story, but Gobila took the dress once of Ugrasena and raped Ugrasena's wife Padmavati. And they had this child, which Ugrasena didn't realize wasn't actually his son, who was Kamsa. And Kamsa learned from his father, Gobila. Gobila was very, very expert in all these different shastras, Smriti Shastra and things. So Kamsa was also very learned in those things. He was a good leader in many ways. He just had one small problem. He was a demon and he didn't like Krishna. But aside from that, he was very good. So on one occasion it's described that not far from Kusum Sarovar, that Krishna was meeting there with the gopis and Radharani. And at that time Makara, Srimati Radharani's little blind and little senile grandmother, came there, and when she saw Krishna, she became very angry. Black snake, you stay away from my granddaughter. Get away from her right now. Very nice thing. Krishna turned to Madhu Mangal, who was with him, and said, you know, Madhu, I get more pleasure from these harsh words of the old ladies of Braj than I get from the prayers of the personified Vedas. But Krishna became a little nervous. Maybe this old lady's going to beat me and it's going to be very embarrassing. Madhu Mangal will tell all the boys and everyone will laugh at me. Old lady's beating me. So Krishna ran away. And he went into the forest of trees there, the tamal trees. And Makara said, oh, you can't get away from me. And she ran after him. But she went in the forest and she couldn't find him. And then after a few minutes, she said, the gopis could hear the voice of Makara. And Makara said, oh, Krishna, we've heard from Garga Muni that you assume many different forms, but I don't like this form. This is a very terrible form. And Lalita looked over and she said, foolish woman, that's not Krishna. That's a terrible demon. Garga Samhita describes Vyagranam, that he had, Shankachuta had Krishnavarnam, he had a black face, Tala Briksha Dasha, Brichitam, he was as tall as 10 palm trees. 10 palm trees put together. That's how tall Shankachuta was. And he had the face of a tiger. So at that time, Sire Getunana Isam, Shankachuta came and he grabbed Radharani by the hair and started dragging her away. Can you imagine anything more terrible? Is there anything more horrific we can imagine? Shrimati, some demon comes and grabs Radharani by the hair and starts dragging her away. At that time, the gopis started calling out, Ha Kanu Kodoshi, Ha Kanu Kodoshi, oh Krishna, Krishna come, Krishna come. Sapodam, with great chivalrous pride. At that time, Krishna said, Re Re Dushta, wicked demon. And Krishna spoke a very wonderful verse at that time. Rupa Goswami describes in Lalita Madhav. Would you like to know what Krishna had to say to Shankachuta when he saw Shankachuta grabbing Radharani by the hair and dragging her away? He told him, Radaparadani Mohustrayina Yanasastim Shaknomi Kartum Akilam Guru Esha Keda Sarvanganeyam Abhidavati Lupta Dharma Tvam Mukti Kala Rajani Bata Kim Karishye. Krishna told that demon with great chivalrous pride, "Oh wicked demon, I feel great pain in my heart." Krishna feels pain. Why does he feel pain? He says, "I feel great pain in my heart. Because I won't be able to spend all of eternity torturing you." You should know the wicked black knight of Krishna is now, the wicked black knight of death named Krishna is now chasing after you. He said, "How will I torture you forever if you just die?" And Rupa Goswami says, Dandakotya, that Krishna hit Shankachuta about 10 million times. Maybe it was 11 million or maybe 9,900,000, I don't know. But it was about 10 million times that Krishna punched Shankachuta and killed him. So Shankachuta represents this obstacle in our bhakti of having some position which leads to lust. Sometimes devotees, especially neophyte devotees, they think that the solution to lust is, or first of all, they think that getting rid of lust is the goal. And that if I get rid of lust, then I'll be advanced. But that's not the version of the Bhagavatam. Vasudevi Bhagavati bhakti-yoga prayojitaha jnanayat yashavairagyam jnanam chayod ohaitu kam. We don't try to cultivate renunciation. Rather, we cultivate bhakti. And everything comes automatically. Even with Vanashram Dharma, you don't have to try to cultivate that so much. You cultivate bhakti. And all good qualities will automatically come to you. And we take advantage of some Vanashram, to help us to stay firmly on the path of bhakti. But we're not dependent on that. Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu describes Jnana Vairagyo Bhakti Prabeshayo Payogita Isat Pratamam Eveti Nangatvam Uchitam Tayo Yad Ube Chitta Katinya Hetu Praya Satam Mate Sukumara Sabhaveyam Bhaktas Tad Hetu Irita. He said that actually Gyan, just collecting a bunch of information, which also can be about bhakti. We can collect a lot of information from Shastra. It may be Gyan, but we want Vigyan, we want bhakti. Gyan and Vairagya, he says, have very little utility in bhakti. And then, only in the beginning. Rupa Goswami says a similar thing in the famous verse, 11th verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. What is the verse? Anyabhilasita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanu silanam bhaktir uttama. Interesting verse. He says that anyabhilasita shunyam. Your anyabhilas should be shunya. No nonsense desires. Jnana karma adi. Your jnana and your karma and adi means etc., which Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath in their commentaries describe as renunciation, as Vanashram Dharma and other things. Jnana karma adi anabritam. For Gyan karma adi, there's anabritam. For anyabhilas, it's shunyatam. Why not Jnana karma adi shunyatam? No Gyan, no karma. Jiva Goswami describes there's three types of Gyan. Tat Padartha Gyan, Tvam Padartha Gyan, and Jiva Brahma Aikya Gyan, or knowledge about the soul. And that's beneficial for bhakti. And we can use that. Tvat Padartha Gyan, knowledge about the Supreme Lord, Tvam Padartha Gyan, Tvat Padartha Gyan, and Jiva Brahma Aikya Gyan, knowledge about the oneness of the Lord and the living entity. That type of knowledge is detrimental for bhakti. And Jiva Goswami says that in the beginning, these can be beneficial for bhakti. But bhakti is swarat. Bhakti sanjayate bhakti. Krishna tells Uddhava in the 11th canto, bhakti comes from bhakti. Bhakti is not dependent on renunciation. It's not dependent on Gyan. It's not dependent on anything. And therefore, Rupa Goswami says, Jnana Vairagyo Bhakti Praveshayo Payogita. In the beginning, Jnana and Vairagya may have some utility, but only in the early part of the path. And we should understand they are not angas of bhakti. just performing them on their own, just being a brahmachari, just performing celibacy on its own is not an anga of bhakti. It's not going to give us bhakti on its own. He says that sadhus who are well conversant with the true nature of bhakti, they say that jnana and vairagya cause the heart to become hard. If we pursue jnana and vairagya as the goal, we won't be able to see Krishna properly. Bhaktivinoda describes this in some articles in Sajjana Toshani. He says that Bhakti Devi won't be happy with you because you're using a process which neglects bhakti. In that famous verse, Anyabilasita Shunyam, why anabritam? Anabritam means not covered. And Jiva Goswami says that Gyan, Vairagya, Adi, Gyan and Vairagya, etc., renunciation, vanashram, etc., may cover bhakti in one of two ways. One, you may think it's the goal. You may think bhakti is not the goal. The goal is renunciation. The goal is to think about my career in ISKCON, to have some position. That's the goal. Then it's covering bhakti, and I'm just doing bhakti to get that. The second reason, second way it may cover bhakti, you may think, unless I practice this gyan, this vairagya, then I can't get bhakti. The bhakti is dependent on it. So either one of those ways is covering bhakti. Those things can be beneficial in the beginning, but we don't cultivate them. They're not angas of bhakti. And therefore Rupa Goswami has given a beautiful verse in his Padyavali. Kasayana chabo janadini yamano vava nivasato vyakyanat attava muni brata bharach chittod bhava kiyate kintu spita kalinda shailatanaya tiresha vikridato govindasya padara vinda bhajanarambasya lesad api. He says, oh, my dear friend, you want to conquer over Cupid. That person is known as Chittodbhava. Your chitta, your consciousness, your heart, your mind. That person who gives some bhav to your mind and heart. That's Cupid, Chittodbhava. You want to overcome him? Okay, how are you going to do that? The first thing he says, Kasayan nacha. Not by wearing saffron cloth. If you think, I'll go purchase a saffron cloth, some dhoti, kurta, and then Cupid will leave me alone. He says Cupid's just going to laugh. It's not just by dressing in some costume that you're going to conquer over Cupid. Bhojanadi, okay, I'll stop eating sugar. No fried things, no sweets, very strict. Rupa Goswami shakes his head, no, that won't work. Okay, niyama, then I'll control my senses very, very strictly. Rupa Goswami says, no, that also won't work. Okay, then vanivasato, I'll go to the forest. Srila Prabhupada wrote one letter in the early days to the devotees. They said, Prabhupada, we don't want to chant japa in the temple in the morning because there's Matajis there. Very bad. Prabhupada said, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to the forest? And even if you go to the forest, there are some yogis who go to the Himalayan mountains and they find a lonely cave where no one is present. And they go inside the cave and they take a big rock and they push it. It takes all their strength in the doorway to the cave, and they sit inside the cave and they fast and try to do their meditation. And after some days, they're too weak to move the stone. And this way they leave their body in the cave. Why? In the hopes that at least here I'll have a peaceful mind. But you won't have a peaceful mind, because our mind carries so many different impressions. You may be inside that lonely cave, but your mind will be telling you all kinds of nonsense. So he says, okay then, Vyakyanad, I'll recite Shastra, Swadhyaya. Rupa Goswami says, no. Muni Vrata, I'll take a vow of silence. Rupa Goswami says, Chitto Bhava Kiyate, that's not going to make Cupid weak, even in the slightest way. Kintu, but, Kintu Spita Kalinda, Sailatanaya Tiresha Vikridato Govindasya Padara Vinda Bhajana Rambasya Lesadapi. But just from the very beginning of the practice of bhakti, Cupid immediately becomes defeated. So these are important things for us to meditate on, because in a big society like ours, with many, many different members, with many different people who have, honestly, different motivations, we can become distracted. And we can start thinking, oh, the important thing, I have to think about my career in ISKCON. Or the most important thing in life, I should be a good celibate. And that's everything. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, sadhu sabadan. Hari he, gari cha achare, rohi lama moji, nakorin sadhu sangha. Loye sadhu vesha, ani upadeshi, eboro mayada ranga. Hari he. He says, this is a sad story of my life. Garita achare rohi lama moji nakorinu sadhu sangha. Garita achare. What is my achar, my behavior? It's garita. It's very, very bad. I'm addicted to all kinds of wicked things. Nakorinu sadhu sangha. I never really did sadhu sangha. I just made sure that whenever someone came out with a camera, that I was standing right next to Gurudev. So everybody would recognize what a great devotee that I am. That's the only sadhu sangha that I did. Nakorinu sadhu sangha. And what's going on? Loi sadhu vesha. Here I am. Loi sadhu vesha. Dressed up like a sadhu with a nice garland they gave me. Ani upadesh. I'm here in the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan giving upadesh to all the devotees. Yes. Eboro mayada ranga. This is Maya's big joke. I should understand that. I should be very careful to stay away from this pratishta, because there's a sequence of events. The first thing is pratishta, and then after pratishta comes this lust. And everything becomes destroyed. And therefore, Raghunath Das Goswami describes Pratistasa Drishya Sapacha Ramani Me Hridinatet Sadatvam Sevasvaha Prabhudaita Samantam Atulam. He speaks about this pratishta. And what is the cure? Sadatvam Sevasvaha Prabhudaita Samantam Atulam. To do service to those great devotees. Prabhudaitam. Samantam Prabhudaitam. By doing service to them, I can be freed from this. And therefore in Braj Bilas Stava, Raghunath Das Goswami says, Patista Rajubir Badham, Kamadyarvatma Patibihi. I have this problem, I'm tied up with the ropes of lust. Pratista has captured me. What can I do? Chitvatu Sangarantastan, Agare Pantumam Bataha. I have to call out, help me, please come, someone come and cut these ropes. What is the word for cutting? The word sadhu. It means someone who cuts. And that sadhu, chitvatu sangarantastan, he comes and he cuts those ropes in the form of the knife of his harsh words. And he gives me a slap. And he tells me, what kind of person are you? You think you're a devotee. You're a nonsense. You're a rascal. And that person is our great friend. My Guru Maharaj used to say that a sincere disciple will always hanker to receive the chastisement of Guru. Because we need that. We need that chastisement. Otherwise, I might really start thinking I'm an important person here giving class, the Krishna Balaram Mandir in front of all of you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ke, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Go Premanande Hari, Vanchakalpatarubhischa, Kripa Sindhubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavani Vaishnavi Bhimo. Prabhuji, do we have time for any questions? Yes? Okay. So any comments or questions from anyone? Prahlad Nanda Maharaj, I feel very terrible speaking in front of you. Please don't curse me, Maharaj.
We find in the history of the Ramayana that when Ravana came to touch Sita Devi, that Maya Sita appeared. Agni took Mother Sita Devi, and then Maya Sita was captured by Ravana. How is it that Sankachuta could have captured by the hair the source of Sita Devi, namely Srimati Radharani?
Very nice question. First of all, what is Sankachuta doing? He's grabbing Radharani by the hair. Who is Radharani? Radharani is Bhakti Devi. And so one subtle point we can get from this is that falling prey to Pratishta is like grabbing Bhakti Devi by the hair and dragging her. So how is it that Sankachuta was able to touch the hair of Radharani? How was he able to enter into Braj? And how is it that when Krishna killed Sankachuta, according to Brahma-Vaivarta Purana and according to Garga Samhita, the soul of Sankachuta entered not into Krishna, but entered into the body of Sridhama. The Brahma-Vaivarta Purana explains that previously Sridhama, who's the elder brother of Radharani, in the spiritual world he had a quarrel with his sister. It happens, we all know. Right? Boys and girls have some quarrel. And they cursed each other. And she cursed Sankachuta to become she cursed Sridhama to become a demon. And Sridhama cursed her to take birth on the earth planet. So this is how Sankachuta was able to touch her hair. He's not an ordinary demon. He's actually Radharani's brother. Is that okay, Maharaj? Thank you, Maharaj. Anything else, Prabhuji? Had something? No? No, that's okay. All right. Thank you all so much. It's not so easy to speak in front of Prahlad Nanda Maharaj and so many sannyasis, and especially when you're a rotten person like myself. He has a comment or question. Okay.
Thank you. We say that bhakti is not dependent on gyan. You mentioned also something like bhakti gyan, understanding bhakti tattva. It seems that the unfoldment of bhakti to some degree might depend on one's clarity of understanding of the, Sambandha, Abhidya, and that's a type of gyan. So when you say that we shouldn't cultivate gyan outside of bhakti, it's not dependent on gyan, but isn't it to some degree dependent on bhakti gyan?
Let me give two examples. First example is Gorkishore Das Babaji, who, much to everybody's shock, he didn't have a Bhakti Shastri degree or Bhakti Vaibhav or anything like that. Sometimes it's said that he was illiterate. He wasn't actually illiterate. He could read Bengali. His favorite books were Prarthana and Prem Bhakti Chandrika. But he wasn't reading Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or Srimad Bhagavatam or like that. But he's a great, great Vaishnava, such an exalted Vaishnava that he had Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as his disciple. So because he cultivated bhakti, Vasudeva Bhagavati, bhakti-yoga prayojitaha, jnanayat yashivairagyam jnanachayadahoitu come. If we cultivate bhakti, gyan will automatically come. This type of gyan that you're speaking about sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana. And it's not required, even if someone can't read Bhagavad-Gita. If someone can simply chant the holy name, if they can simply chant the holy name on their mind, maybe they have no tongue, but anyone can perform bhakti, and anyone can realize they're a spirit soul. Because the holy name gives everything. Bhaktivinoda and Harinam Chintamani says that Name prasvatito hai rupa guna karma. From that holy name will blossom Krishna's form. We'll see Krishna, Krishna's qualities and Krishna's leela. Everything comes, what to speak of gyan, all types of knowledge come just from the holy name. So that's one example. Second example, I was invited, oh gosh, it's been 15 years ago or something, to give a lecture at some big Pandal program in Orissa. The governor of Orissa was there. There's about 30,000 people present there. And they sent a car for us. And I got in the car, and there was a professor in the car. And this guy was completely amazing. From a very young age of like 8 or 10 years old, he'd memorized the entire Bhagavad-Gita. He's a Sanskrit scholar. And he knew, I don't know, I was only with him for a few hours, but it seemed like he knew hundreds, maybe thousands of verses from the Bhagavatam. And not only that, but so many verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita and also verses from Goswami literatures, like Lalita Madhav and Vidagdha Madhav. I was really astonished. Perhaps he knew more verses than everybody here in the room put together. And then at one point he started to share with me his personal ecstasies. First thing he told me, he said, you know, actually, Jagannath is actually Buddha. No, okay. And it's... The next thing he wanted to start talking to me about is how fish eating is okay. It's very good. He liked to eat fish, and he also liked to smoke. So he had so much gyan. He had much more gyan than Gorkishore Das Babaji. But he couldn't understand the first thing about bhakti. Because bhakti comes, bhaktistu bhagavad bhakta sangena parijayate, the Brihanaradiya Purana states that bhakti comes from a devotee. In Mumbai, I think it was 1974, Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture, a very amazing thing he said. He said, some people say, what is the use of accepting a guru? And then Prabhupada said a little phrase, which I think was like predicting the future perhaps. He said, some people say, what is the use of accepting a guru? Of course, they have a very bad experience. He said, they say, I'll just read the books. What is the necessity of accepting a guru? And Prabhupada said, they may read Bhagavad-Gita 100 times, they may read it 1,000 times, but they won't understand a single word because they haven't approached a devotee. Now we have our Bhakti Shastri, our Bhakti Vaibhav, our different courses that we teach here in Vrindavan and in Mayapur and other places. And Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wanted these things because he wanted people to read his books. Because in the books it says you should accept a guru. In the books it says you should chant the holy name. People become purified by reading those books. But just by getting a Bhakti Shastri degree doesn't mean you're going to have bhakti. Doesn't mean you're going to get prem, you're going to go to the spiritual world. You don't just show up at the Ras Leela and say, yes, me, see, here's my Bhakti Shastri degree. So let me inside. Gopishwar Mahadev, who's guarding the way, he's not going to be impressed with that. Okay? Anything else to say? Prabhuji?
Thank you for the nice class. In Chaitanya Charitamrita also it said Siddhanta Boliya Chinte na karo alas. So can you please explain that in this context?
Very, very important thing. Well, Siddhanta Boliya Chinte, that we should not neglect, Prabhupada translates it, these controversial discussions. Actually, I find somehow my service the last 20 years or so has been preaching and giving classes. I find that giving classes, one of the most important things I can do is speak about controversial things. Because when you speak about something controversial, you're being respectful to the audience. Not too controversial, we don't want any fist fights or anything like that. But you're not treating them like a child. You're treating them with some respect. Because those controversial subject matters, they help broaden our mind. Just as we were saying in the beginning, that Bhaktivinoda says that this sukshma buddhi, or subtle intelligence, is very, very important. So one way to help cultivate sukshma buddhi is by having discussions about controversial things. And we can talk about something really controversial like lady gurus, or really controversial like did we fall from the spiritual world. And I can, first of all, if we have that discussion, I suggest you realize one small thing. You don't own that subject. It's not, there's not a tattoo on my chest that this subject matter belongs to me. I'm the official representative of this subject or that subject. I have a right to have an opinion because I'm a human being. And I can discuss things with other people. But I don't own it. I wasn't directed to be the person who's going to present this subject matter to everyone else. And for the sake of unity and diversity, which Srila Prabhupada very much wanted, I should be willing to listen to other persons. So Siddhanta, in this case, we want to hear from other persons. But this doesn't mean that I'm taking shelter of some empirical information and thinking that because today you can go to Loy Bazaar and you can buy so many books. You can buy Ujjwal Nilamani with commentaries of different acharyas, and you can memorize some of those things. And, with all respect to the sannyasis, you might even be able to say many things that some senior devotees don't say. And people might say, wow, just see, that guy's really advanced. But we should understand there's always and necessarily a difference between someone who gets some little cheap book knowledge and those devotees who have given their lives to Srila Prabhupada. And maybe they don't know so much Sanskrit. Maybe they can't pronounce Bengali so well. They don't know so many verses. But that's not the criterion. The criterion is Saranagati. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the Sarup Lakshana, or the primary quality of a sadhu, is Saranagati, is surrender. And always and necessarily, we should respect that quality in our society amongst the senior devotees. Not just as someone has purchased a few books, memorized a few things, and now they seem like they're advanced because they have some information. Okay? Nice point, Prabhu. Thank you. Prabhuji?
This might not be as relevant, but I see the word Purusharchanantara. To what degree can we talk in front of the deities? I mean, and how do we adjust to devotees doing it? And also mobile phone. What can you please share?
Okay, I think this question is an expression of some deep unhappiness in your heart. So, if you can't hear the question, and he wasn't speaking so loudly. He's speaking about this Purusha Archana, or the offenses in deity worship, and he's asking about speaking in front of the deity. So we should be very, very careful. Sometimes we may think, well, this is just a seva aparad. Seva aparads are not so significant because I'm not doing nam aparad. Right? Nam aparad is the really heavy thing. Because I'm not doing seva aparad, then I can talk in front of the deities and do different things. Prabhu, don't be so uptight. You know, we're here for the holy name. The holy name is everything. But if you do that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that becomes nam aparad. Nam boli pap buddhi. It becomes the offense to the holy name that I think that because I'm taking shelter of the holy name, I don't have to follow. I don't have to avoid these 32 different seva aparads because I'm in some special category now. So it's a fact we should be careful. And I can see from your question that it's caused you some pain in your heart. And why is that? Because it's neglecting the deity and it's creating a disturbance in the atmosphere. If everybody here all of a sudden during the class started speaking on your cell phone, what would happen to the atmosphere of the Bhagavatam class? How would it be service to the deity? Or if we start speaking with the devotees about things which have no relevance for service, no relevance to the deity worship in front of the deity, it's an offense. Why is it an offense? Well, one reason being that I'm disrespecting the Lord who's standing there, but also I'm disrespecting the Vaishnavas and the Vaishnava Sangha. I'm disturbing it. If during the kirtan I wanted to start sending some text messages or something, it's a disturbance to the other devotees. It affects the atmosphere. So we should be careful to avoid these and not think, oh, because I'm chanting the holy name, this is not going to affect me. If you think like that, that's nam boli pap buddhi, an offense to the holy name. Okay? Very nice comment. Thank you. Anything else, sister? Whew, I survived the class. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki!